Guys, welcome back to another episode of Truth Bump. Today we're going to be continuing part 2 of our previous Truth Bump, which was the journey. Now, in the last Truth Bump, the journey became really about why. Who are we? Why? Why are we taking this journey? Which is probably the most important part of the conversation is to go away and actually go and do some of that pondering that I gave you and the homework that I gave you. It's going to be, I guess it clarifies a lot of things for you. And until you having a deeper connection to why and who are you, that's, it's an ongoing progression, peeling layers. And at the end of the day, everything that we are talking about comes down to those 4 pillar questions, which is who am I, why am I here, where did I come from, and ultimately where am I going? So those old age questions, as we go through different truth bumps, you're having different or deeper realizations of those questions. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. It's landing for you. So look, let's get straight into it. Today, I want to talk about what I intended to talk about in the last session, but as you know, we went on this beautiful tangent and really enjoyed talking about the why and who we are in relation to the journey. But today, I want to start with my favorite quote from Buddha. And it is about the journey. And the quote is, there are only 2 mistakes we can make on the path of the truth, or the path to the truth. 1 is not getting started. 2 is not going all the way. I'll say that one more time. There are only 2 mistakes that you can make on the path of truth. 1 is not getting started. 1 is not going all the way. So obviously you guys have started, you're well on your journey, and some of you have been working with me for many years, some of you for months, some of you have been on your personal, different journey prior to coming and working with me. But at the end of the day, the journey is about deepening and having a direct experience of your truth. And your truth is who you are. That's why the last session was so important to discuss. So, but I love the second part of that is not going all the way. And for me, I call this the all-in moment with the journey. I got to a point in my life where I've always been dedicated to this journey. I started from 10, 11, 12. I was always inquisitive, and I didn't know. Back then there was religion. That was pretty much all there was. Besides that, there's mum and dad, that could give me some spiritual insights or guidance. But for me, when I was 10 and 11 and 12, I actually went and started reading, the Bible. I also read the Quran, an English version of the Quran. And I read these books because I was a truth seeker from a very early age. And I had different personal spiritual experiences that I had, which I'm not going to get into right now. And so it started very early for me. But that wasn't my all-in moment. And let's just clarify what an all-in moment is. I mean, all-in is like everything is an illusion, or everything I won't talk about there is nothing but the truth. Like it's like, I want the truth. I want to know who I am. And look, at the end of the day, we're all going to find out at some point, aren't we? One thing that's guaranteed on this journey is an experience called death, which obviously is the death of the physical. You don't really die. Your soul continues. But, and that comes down to your own personal beliefs or your direct experiences if you had of who you are. But that's one thing that's guaranteed. So at some point, you got to find out what the truth is. But in many spiritual texts, they say you need to die before you die. I don't know if you've heard that before, but early in my journey, I heard that. And for me, that means that you need to die, like it's the death of the identity or the death of the ego, right? And my beliefs around the ego, I've spoken about this previously. It's not that your ego dies, it's the power the ego has dies, because for as long as you're experiencing yourself in the physical reality, there is this ego voice, but it has no power over you. So just to digress, just to remind you and re-highlight that, okay? But we call that the death of the ego. I call it the death of the ego's power, if you like. So, isn't that the point though? Aren't we here to wake up while we're in the dream? Like, these are the questions I would ask myself. Why would I come here to experience myself being completely limited and to create this experience of running on a treadmill and always chasing something that I feel like I never attain? It doesn't matter what goal I accomplished. It doesn't matter, getting married, having kids, traveling the world, somebody having that house or boat, it doesn't matter what I accomplished, right? It never felt like that, it always, within all those accomplishments, to put it clearly, it always felt like there was still something missing. And something felt incomplete. Something felt not whole. And again, that's my direct experience of who I am. So, to me, when I started my journey, or when I revisited my journey, and I'll come back to my story of how I digressed, but when I revisited my journey, these are the questions I would ask. Like, why would I be here to be limited, to create this experience? I call it like the donkey experience. And the reason I call that is because the way you navigate or you ride a donkey is you dangle the carrot ahead of the donkey, don't you? So you got this carrot dangled in front of the donkey, and the donkey will continue to chase this carrot. Never gives up on chasing this carrot. And the truth is he will never catch the carrot, right? At some point, though, he gets tired, and maybe his drive to catch the carrot drops. So then you hit him with a stick. And to me, that's what my life felt like. There was always a carrot being dangled in front of me. If I can get this, it will change my life. If I can get this, I'll be happy. If I can get this, I will feel safe. If I can get this, I will feel love. If I can get this, I can get accepted. If I can get this, I can get approval. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there was this carrot. And then when I came across and I know this is the carrot, right? And I recognized that, I'm not going to catch the carrot. And I just went, I'm going to let go. I want to surrender, because I know the carrot is an illusion, right? But guess what happens? I start getting hit by a stick. Well, if you don't do this, you're going to run out of money. If you don't do this, people want to approve of you. If you don't do this, you lose your home. If you don't do this, how are you going to survive? If you don't do this, you won't exist. It's the stick is there. So then you're like, I got to keep going. And to me, that's what my life felt like. In my early adult, 20s, 22, 23. And I was just like, why? Whoever created this, what is the point of that? What is the point of creating this treadmill experience, this ongoing, this carrot and stick experience? And, I could never escape it. So to me, that wasn't the answer. I don't think we came here, I didn't think to myself, I came here to prove myself. I didn't feel like I came here, to test myself, to be good, to not be bad, to do the right thing and avoid the wrong thing. Like all that stuff, it didn't make sense because anyway, I won't go down that road. So to me, that's where, I really came to a realization that I'm not here to be asleep. I'm not here to have this experience of the carrot and stick. That's not why we came here. Because there was a part of me saying, if that's why we came here, I'm done. Because I got to a point very early. I'm like, I'm done. This is not a game. This is not an experience that I want to experience in my life. I'm done. If that's the experience, I'm done. So I knew at that point that, that is not the experience. There's some, guidance, some realizations as I continue to follow my heart, my intuition, the feeling, all the things that I'm sharing with you. I came to realize that that's not why we're here. We're here. I'm sure, I'm certain that we are here to awaken. We are here to awaken within the dream. And that's what I talk about when I say you're here to be an infinite being in a finite world. Finite world because your body's still finite. Finite world because you're experiencing yourself in time. Finite world because you're still experiencing yourself through your physical reality, being duality, which is finite. The moment it's physical, the moment it's duality, the moment it's time, measured in time or bound by time, it's now finite. But within you, within your mind, within your heart, within who you are, within your awakening, you're infinite. So the finite world begins to bend around you, around your state of mind, an infinite state of mind, right? So what happens previously to that realization is that you spend your time chasing the carrot and stick. So what happens is you're bending around the finite world. The world is not bending around you. You bend around that. We call that, or my experience of that was being a slave. I felt like I was in prison, and I'll get moments of release. They'll let me out into the courtyard and I feel wonderful. I feel the sun on my face and I think, oh, life is great. But then I have to go back to the prison. Like that's what it felt like for me. And to me, that was not the answer. So look, there was a point where I got to where I was, the all-in moment. And it was when my entire reality was crumbling. And it was crumbling, I thought, because I was following this feeling, because it's like I came back around a part of the story that I just missed out. I will just quickly revisit it. When I turned, 18 years of age, I kind of let go, even 17, 16, teenage days, I let go of this, truth, I went through normal teenage things, and as a 18, 19-year-old, I never went to university. It was all about being an entrepreneur, a business person, and I was, putting all my efforts in being successful. And I went down that road for the next 6 or 7 years of my life. And, I had many failures. When at the age of 21, I was on the verge of bankruptcy with 2 different businesses that had folded. And, and then I recovered from that. I didn't declare bankruptcy. Then I made the next business, became successful, and I accomplished what some of my goals, the dreams, the home, the boat, the car, all those different things that I had as goals, if you like. And so within my failure and within my success, I still felt the same. There's something still missing. There's something still incomplete. And that's when I actually went back to someone like my mother, who has guided me spiritually. And I said to my mom, all right, what do you know? And that's when I came back to my path. And then when I came back to my path, it all became, for me at first, it was all about following the feeling. Like no matter what, follow the feeling, and I was following the feeling, but it felt like, and this is not, I'm not saying this is what has to happen, but this is what my experience was. And what happened to me is that as I was following the feeling, it felt like the world outside of me was becoming darker. Things became shaky. It's just, I went financially back down, and I experienced some difficult times, and I thought to myself, maybe I'm going crazy. Like I'm following this feeling, and yes, as I follow the feeling, I feel lighter, I feel more empowered. I'm starting to feel more complete, but my physical reality was falling apart. And it is almost like the world outside of me became darker and darker, but within me I was experiencing more and more light, if you like. But at this point I started to question, and I thought to myself, maybe I'm just making this up. Maybe this feeling is something I'm making it up. Maybe it's not real, because why is my world falling apart? And at this point I thought, am I making this feeling up? Am I making these insights up? Am I going crazy here? Because everything was becoming dark, and then I had to sit down with myself and have an honest session and go, well, is this real? And I thought, and I said this to myself. I sat down. I said, show me a sign that this feeling and what I'm feeling, I'm not making it up, that it is real, and I'm going to go all the way. And I don't care what has to happen. I don't care if I have to become homeless. I don't care what discomfort, what fears, it doesn't matter what I need to go through. I'm going to go all the way. That was my all-in moment. And for me, I had this huge, profound drop in, this huge realization, because something took place in my physical reality. And maybe I'll share these stories with you at a retreat or somewhere where we're actually together. Because, I won't go into what actually took place, but something took place and I remember saying this to myself, show me a sign that I will not doubt. And of course, there was a sign for me, and I'm not one, look, I'm open to signs, but I don't look for it, because every time I'm looking for the signs, that ain't it. It's the sign needs to find me. So I just want to kind of put that out there. And there was something more than a sign that dropped in that I could not doubt. And that was my all-in moment. And I knew that this feeling was real. And and yes, the external world seemed like it was becoming darker and darker, but that's because I was reclaiming my power from the story. This external story, the external world, your reality is usually bright because all your power is outside of you. So it's bright. But as you reclaim your power, you find the light within yourself, and you realize that you illuminate the world, not the other way around. So that was the process for me. The things that I had power in, whether it was money or people or being accepted or whatever it was that I had power in, the light is in those power. The light is in those stories. The power is in those circumstances. But as you reclaim that power, then they start to become, for me, my experience was they started to crumble. They started to become dark. And then that's when you really have the opportunity to reclaim your power, because at that point you're like, I got to save it, right? And for me, at that point, the most important thing is to stay with the feeling. And if I feel moved to respond to what was crumbling, I will. If not, I just let it crumble. So, and there's lots of stories around that. And like I said, maybe one day we'll meet in person at a retreat of mine or at an event, and maybe we can share some more stories. The retreat's always the best because we sit around the campfire and I can share lots of stories. So anyway, that was my all-in moment. It was just like, okay, I'm going all the way. And it didn't matter what could happen in my physical reality. I felt a knowing. I trusted that knowing that I had, that it's going to all work out. And you've all got that knowing. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey. I mean, how many times in your life has things seemed like they're falling apart, or maybe they were falling apart, and and you just thought to yourself, before you actually reacted and went down the road, oh, I'm stuffed, or oh, I'm in trouble here. Before you did that, there's a feeling that you felt, and you went, you know what? I feel like it's going to work out. I just know it's going to work out. So you've all had that experience. Now, sometimes you've had, there's been times where I didn't have that feeling. It's because you already went down the road. You need to catch yourself before you wreck yourself. Catch yourself before you actually entertain the thoughts and taking yourself into the future of where this road is leading. And it's my whole world is going to fall apart. Once you've gone down there, it's very difficult. So it's before you lose yourself, it's like checking in with your feeling, and then it's like, you know what, I feel like I'm going to be okay. And I've coached many people, and I've had people who had they got diagnosed with cancer, and they ring me and want to get a coaching session, and the first thing I say is like, just before you go into what you need to do and what could happen and, what if this or what if that, before, and I'm the first person they've called, my question is, how do you feel? Not about the cancer, but how do you feel? Do you feel it's going to work out? Like, what do you feel? I didn't want to put it in their head. And they're like, I feel I'm going to be okay. And I said, don't lose that feeling. Okay, there's going to be lots of noise moving forward. Keep coming back to that feeling, and it's it's powerful. And of course, this person was fine, and they ended up healing themselves and came out of the cancer. But I feel that's a pretty not dramatic, but a pretty intense story. But there's things that are happening every day in your life, and you're just you let your thoughts just go there, and you end up like on a spiral, and it's hard. It's difficult once you've spiraled, right? But it's easier to catch yourself before you go there and just go, yeah, but how do I feel? What do I feel within this circumstance, within this story, within this outcome, within this result, within what's happening right now? How do I feel? Not how do I feel about what's happening, but how do I feel? What's my feeling? Right there is what you want to connect to. So anyway, that's a little bit about the all-in moment. So you may have experienced that already, or you may. And the reason I'm sharing this story with you is because somewhere on your journey, you may be faced with an all-in moment. I'm all in. When I was 10 or 12, I wasn't all in, I was curious. I was a truth seeker, but it wasn't all in. I was, seeking. When I became 18, 19, I went and did what all most kids did. I left, it was like, yeah, there's a feeling, but I need to go become successful, make money, and not be a failure, because at school they told me I would be the failure of the class. Like the teachers would say, you, out of all the people, you're the one that's most likely to fail. So I was driven to go become successful and prove everyone wrong. So I kind of left my personal journey. And I had to go and experience what I had to experience for the next 6 or 7 years. And because I remember when I went to become successful, and I told my mom, I need to go make money, and I'm going to become successful. I'm going to become a businessman. And she says, okay. And she looked at me and she goes, but money's not going to make you happy. And I was just like, I hated that she said that, but, and I just went, and I said the line that everyone says, oh, well, it's going to make things easier. And, with money, I can change the world, because I need to justify why I wanted to make money. So I can change the world with money. Later, I realized it's not money that you need to change the world, but that's another conversation. I realized I'd say that to justify why I'm financially driven. So anyway, but what did my mum do? She went, okay, and she supported me on that journey because I needed to experience that it wasn't money, it wasn't success that is going to give me whatever it is that I was looking for. I had to come back to my journey. I had to come back to myself, to who I am. And we all have different journeys, whether your journey's on success or your journey's on, becoming a performer, or a ballet person, a singer, or whatever it is. We all have different things that we love, and we've got these big ambitions. But don't lose yourself. Remember where you came from. Remember who you are. Remember why you're here. And if you do that, you operate from a higher frequency, a state of being rather than the state of doing. And maybe we can talk about that in the next truth bump potentially about that. But so look, there's a something that I find people, it's a point that people may find themselves at on their journey, where they kind of just go, you know what, they go all in, right? And they really commit themselves to their path and to who they are. This doesn't mean you have to disconnect from the world. Doesn't mean you have to disconnect from what you're doing. But you're not looking to find who you are in the world. You're not looking to find who you are in what you do. You're not looking to find who you are in your accomplishments. That's what changes. So now, at this point of the journey, when someone kind of gets to the all-in moment, and even before the all-in moment, people, when they join or when they start their spiritual awakening or their spiritual journey, they tend to make it into what they're used to from the physical world. In the physical world, you might be climbing a corporate ladder, trying to get somewhere, get higher, and as you get higher and higher, you become more powerful, or you become more liked, or you become more, you attain more results, and etc. And I find that there is a lot of people who get tired of the corporate ladder, and they realize, something's missing, something's incomplete. And then that's when they find themselves on their spiritual journey. And then it becomes about their spiritual awakening. And then what they do is they turn their spiritual journey into the spiritual ladder, and they start to climb the spiritual ladder and try to get to a certain point. And it's not the same, in your corporate ladder or in your social, what's the word I'm looking for? Society ladder. Yeah, you've been climbing that ladder, right? But when it comes to awakening, it's not a ladder. It's not a result that happens in the future. It's if anything, it's about undoing, trying to be anywhere else but here. It's undoing, trying to do everything that you think you need to do. See, what happens when people start their spiritual journey, they bring that seriousness that they have, that level of commitment they had in the corporate or society ladder, and they bring it into their spiritual journey. The thing is about the spiritual journey is not serious. It's if anything, if I can distinguish this, there's a heart seriousness and there's a head seriousness. And what people do is bring that head seriousness that they have or they had from their corporate ladder or from the society ladder, and they bring it into their spiritual journey, and they're like, I'm committed, I'm all in, right? I'm going to do whatever it takes. But that's not the level of commitment that you require. It's not a head serious. It's a heart serious. Head serious is it's about pushing. It's about manipulating. It's about forcing the result. And what you find yourself doing, if you're doing that in your spiritual awakening, is that you start to put yourself and compare yourself to other people in your community or other people that you know in the journey, and you're comparing yourself to those people to see where you are on the ladder. And of course, you sometimes put them down in your head. You might not actually put them down and go, oh, you don't know, but you're listening to them and you're like, oh, geez, they're really down on the spiritual ladder, which means I'm higher. It's exactly what you do in the corporate ladder, right? But you're doing this on this. You've turned the spiritual awakening or the spiritual journey into the same ladder. So it's not about those people. In fact, those people you start to realize are a reflection of you. So who you're comparing yourself to. So. Now, I said to you that, it's a heart seriousness. It's not a head seriousness. So by heart serious, I mean there's a level of commitment, but the commitment is to yourself. It's, if I can use the word, it's sincere, right? It's sincerity, right? It's an openness. It's about allowing it to happen, not forcing it or making it happen. It's about being here, not getting there, wherever there is, right? So it's very different. And, I've been doing this for over 15 years and I see that all the time. And some of the biggest egos come out in the spiritual journey, within the spiritual community. Yes, you might act different, you might, but internally you're making judgments about other people in order to position yourself on the spiritual ladder. Of course, not everyone's doing this, but I know this because I did this. Okay, so I'm sharing with you that journey, and I'm sharing, and I've seen so many people do it when they first, come to, I didn't find what I was looking for in my physical reality. I didn't find what I was looking for in my corporate world. I didn't find what I was looking for in society. And then you come back and go, I want to find it in myself, which is exactly what happened to me, because I was like, I want to become successful. I'm going to become a businessman. I'm going to become a multimillionaire entrepreneur and blah, blah, blah. And, I just had some level of success. And I realized immediately it didn't change anything. It didn't change who I am. Right? Sure, it changed what I was eating, how I was dressing, but, it didn't change how I felt, how I truly felt about who I am. And that's why I started to experience there's something missing, something's incomplete, and I went back to the journey, back to finding myself, back to the spiritual awakening, if you like. And that's what happens. You get these truth seekers who are, who find themselves on this journey like from the beginning, but then you get people who have to realize and have to have a direct experience that what they're looking for is not. And sometimes we don't even know what it is we're looking for yet, right? But we know that whatever it is what we're looking for, it's not in the physical world. Again, I'm not saying you disconnect from the physical world. It's just you don't look for who you are in what you do. You don't look for who you are in what you've accomplished. You don't look for who you are in where you are on the corporate or spiritual or society's ladder. It's not. You're not looking for it there. So you're still experiencing yourself in the physical, but your attention comes back to yourself. So just like my mum, when I said to my mum, I'm just going to go become successful, my teachers told me I couldn't do it, I'm going to go do it. She was like, well, go ahead and do it, because she can't tell me, hey, you know what, that's not the answer. I spent 7 years on that journey of becoming successful and going through failures and overcoming failures and becoming successful again. And that was a 7-year period before I went, my being, like my soul hasn't changed. My feeling, my relationship with myself hasn't changed. I still feel like there's something missing. I still feel incomplete. And that's when I went back to my mum and went, all right, Mum, what do you know? And she helped me with some guidance to where I am today. So, and I'm here to share that same guidance with you, to help you. But my point here is that most of us, if not all of us, have to have a direct experience that what you're looking for is not going to be found in the physical reality. Okay, it's going to be found in you. And once you know that for sure, because there's a part of you that, like, when you know, if someone's hearing this right now and they're like maybe 19, 20, well, they're not going to resonate with this. They're like, I mean, sure, they may resonate with it. Let me not say they're not going to resonate with it. They may resonate with it and go, yeah, you know, this feels true. And I really like this. And, you know, I've had some young people come into this journey and I've coached them. But in the back of their mind, they may have this, yeah, but if I make this much money, it's going to give me this carrot. And you know, and if you, until you've got that in the back of your mind, you're not really ready to be all in within yourself, right? And to realize yourself. Because in the back of your mind, you're still thinking about the carrot. And the only way you can no longer think about the carrot, or sometimes I refer this to the shiny diamonds in the world, like there's these sparkly things in the world that you think, if I attain that shiny diamond, and that's just a metaphor, right? It's not about diamonds, but if I attain that shiny diamond, then I'm finally going to be happy. I finally made it. And of course, every shiny diamond that you accomplish does not give you that feeling. Never, ever. I know they say that on Instagram or social media, like, oh, I finally made it. They don't feel that, okay? Because I know. I coach many people who put the shiny diamond and go, look what I've accomplished. But inside, they come to me and they go, I feel sad. I feel incomplete. I feel like, you know, I can't get off this treadmill. Okay? So, you know, the point is they need to have a direct experience that shiny diamond is not going to give them what they want. And that's when people turn back to themselves and go, there's got to be more. This is not what life is about, surely. And they start asking deeper questions. And those are the people that I work with majority of the time. Okay? And those are you guys who are listening to this message. So you know, it was very wise of my mum when I said to her, I need to go become successful, for her to go, okay. And she supported me to go do that, knowing that I needed to experience that, even though she said money's not going to make you happy, right? There's a difference between kind of like, and I resonated with what she said. And when people say to you, money's not going to be happy, there's a part of you that resonates with it, but there's a part of you that's just curious, but maybe it will, because I don't really know, because I've never had it. So therefore you need to kind of go and, you know, experience, you know, that journey and have a direct experience that, you know what, it's not about this. You know, whether you made money or not money, you get to a point you're going, this is not it. And when you realize this is not it, that's when you can actually truly start your journey. And for me, that's when I truly started my journey. And most people think that's their all-in moment. That's not your all-in moment, because there's still residue of, you know, you potentially going, but what if? But what if, you know? And until that's completely gone, you won't get to your all-in moment. The all-in moment is when you know that the world has nothing for you. There is nothing. Those diamonds, it doesn't matter how sparkly they are, it doesn't matter how bright things are outside, it has nothing for you. Okay? And funnily enough, that's when you can actually realize your own true power, and then you can have anything in the world. But you don't need it anymore in order to feel complete. So that's the journey. That's the journey for me. It looks like that. It feels like that, and it's if you can take one little bit of content from here, I've described to you the journey, but the most important thing I think here is, and something that you may be resonating with right now is, don't get head serious about this. It's not serious. The journey is not serious. If the journey is feeling heavy, it's because you're resisting something, or you're trying to get somewhere where all you need to be is here. You're trying to do something where all you need to do is undo, right? So it's a heart seriousness, and that heart seriousness is a level of sincerity. You're sincere to your journey, but the heart serious feels light. Like it's still committed. It still has certainty. It may still have conviction, but it's not heady. It's not forceful. It's not, I'm going to make this happen no matter what kind of scenario. You might have this, I'm going all the way, but you don't even know what all the way is yet, right? It's like, the heart seriousness is you throwing your heart over a wall and deciding that I'm going over that wall, right? But you're not going to try to bang that wall over. Like it's not. I don't know if I'm getting the right analogy here, but it's not. You're not forcing that wall. You know you're going to go over that wall because you threw your heart over it. You just know you're going to go over that wall, right? But you're not going to force it. You're not pushing. You're allowing the wall to open up. It's like, oh, there's the door. And I'll walk through the door, if I can use that analogy. But some people throw their heart over the wall and go, I'm in, I'm all in. But then they start banging on the wall and they didn't realize there's a little door just to your right. It's just a little one. You had to crawl through it maybe, but it's open and all you have to do is, and that's the analogy. Anyway, that's a little bit about the journey. I do have some more things that I actually want to share around the journey. So I'm wondering if this is actually going to go to a 3-part series. Okay. Let's see what comes up in the next truth bump. Because I do want to talk about something that I call purity. And something that I call having streetwise. So maybe we'll have to pick that up in our next session. And there was something else I dropped in before, and I said, oh, maybe I have to pick that up. I've already forgotten what it was, but if it's meant to be, it will come up. But I think in our next session, I will pick up to ensure that I've really completed everything that I want to share around the journey. So we will pick up with the idea of purity and streetwise, and that's just something that both is required. And I won't go into it right now, but that's what we'll pick up with next week. All right, guys. So I hope that's landed where it needs to land, and you're feeling what you need to feel. And I'll see you guys in our next Truth Bomb.